our fabulous patient support specialist, and our special guest, Sarah Yesevich, Cultural Data Project. We're going to kick off our webinar today with a poll. So please indicate, let's let Sarah take on the first question as we launch this poll, which will, we want to know, will this be your organization's first time applying to the Fresno Regional Foundation? Everybody, okay, good. We've got 25% yes. This will be my organization's first time. Our 30% is going. 27, 73. Are we done? We've got everybody? So 85% of you have voted. We need 15% of you. Okay. Okay, are we done? Tell me when we're done. So it looks like we're sharing the results right now. So everybody's seen it? So we've got, what is that, 27% of you. This is your first time applying to the foundation. All right, great. Our next question, does your organization serve urban or rural community? So we're waiting for everybody? Or both, yeah. So here we go. Okay, great. So I believe we are pretty close to being done. All right. So 13% of you on the call today are serving urban communities, 19% serving rural, and 69% serving both. Okay, and our last question. I want to know how many of you have used the Cultural Data Project. If you have applied to us before, which the majority of you have, how many of you have used the Cultural Data Project? Great. We're almost there. And if you're not sure, just select not sure. We're almost there. Okay, so we're closing it, and 27% of you said yes once, 27% of you said yes more than once, 33% said no, and 13% of you are not sure. Okay, great, thanks. That's great feedback for us. We appreciate your cooperation. All right, so we're going to start off with 2013 Arts and Culture Goals to Fund. And we have published on the website that the Fresno Regional Foundation serves a dynamic and multicultural population. It is important that the community benefit organizations, or CBOs, we support are aware of and sensitive to the diversity of the Central Valley. Therefore, FRF will fund programs that support culturally relevant art forms that reflect and serve the Central San Joaquin Valley's diverse population. And we will support arts and culture activities that engage underserved communities. And we will support arts and culture activities that improve achievement in core academic competencies such as literacy, math, and science for preschool to 12th grade students. Those are the goals to fund. We have additional information in this grant cycle. This is this is a new aspect of this grant cycle in this selection criteria. And The Fresno Regional Foundation values collaboration and other organizations and agencies for greater results, demonstrating how our organization works with other stakeholders through a shared vision, shared measurements, constant communication, and building on the services and strengths of other stakeholders will cause your proposal to receive a higher ranking. We believe working together in this way will contribute to sustainable community change. So we're going to pause here and we're going to show a brief video.
Collective impact. Diverse organizations coming together to solve a complex social problem. Traditionally, nonprofits have operated in isolation from one another, pursuing their goals independently. But complex, large-scale problems require a coordinated, structured, and collaborative approach. Collective impact means creating alignment, commitment, policy, funding, trust, and coordinating across sectors, public, nonprofit, business, governments, foundations. Collective impact efforts typically have 5 conditions. Common agenda. This means all parties agree to shared goals and how to get there. Shared measurement, keeping track of the same things. Mutually reinforcing activities, each actor doing their own part, using their unique skills. Continuous communication, regularly sharing results with each other. Backbone organization, a support team that helps mobilize, coordinate, and facilitate to keep the goal in sight and the progress rolling. Channeling our collective strength, we can solve the world's toughest problems. Collective impact.
Okay, this we're providing in all our information sessions this year to give applicants an indication of the direction the foundation is going while we support organizations and programs through the competitive grant making. So this kind of orientation is to help potential applicants understand what we're talking about in regards to collective impact and collaboration. This is what we mean when we say proposals that are collaborative in nature. We're looking for a more in-depth integration of services, how you support one another in the community with your program. Now, this is not a requirement for this grant cycle, but this will make proposals that demonstrate these aspects, these characteristics, more compelling. So, with that, I will give you a list of criteria that the committee recommended to the board and the board approved for this grant cycle. The factors that will be considered when reviewing your proposal will be data supporting program impact, programs customized to target populations, proven expertise in the proposed field of work, strong organizational capacity, and a strong rationale for proposed program and or approach, integration with other programs, organizations, and or systems. Again, this is a selection criteria. These aren't mandatory. But if you want your proposal to rise to the top, to be the most competitive it can be, it will contain these elements. Some of these elements, most of these elements, or all of these elements, depending on the program you're wanting funded. We will take questions at the end of this session, but you can certainly submit them as they come to you while we go through the webinar. So this year we have $120,000 available. $35,000 is earmarked for organizations whose offices are located within the city of Fresno. We have had this earmarked before. This is reflective of a fund that is specific to the City of Fresno. And only $35,000 of the $120 has this earmark. To continue, one grant of $50,000 may be awarded for a collaborative project. The remaining amounts range from $5,000 to $25,000. So if you're not applying for the $50,000 grant, then the range of your grant should fall within the $5,000 to $25,000 grant range. And funding will be awarded for 1 year. So those organizations eligible to apply are 501c3, nonprofit status, government agencies, community groups with fiscal agents, educational institutions, and services or programs provided in one or more of the geographic areas of Fresno, Madera, Tulare, Merced, Mariposa, and Kings County. That is our regional footprint. You may have seen this table in your handout with specifics with documents you will need to submit based on your organization type. We will also be adding a link to this on the organization. So there, we have listed with these eligible organizations a table to say if you are a 501c3, we require these documents. If you are a government agency, we require these documents, and I believe it's on page 2 of the handout that was given you. But here are the eligible organizations we can give a grant to. All right, let's go to the next slide. This information is included in your handout and is on the website. So we assess the financial health, and it's measured by your IRS 990, most recent board-reviewed internal financial statements, which are also known as the balance sheet or income statement. If the last fiscal year's gross receipts is more than $500,000, then an independent external audit is required. We review those. Operational budget for the organization is also reviewed. Board composition is reviewed, and we hope and encourage that your board composition reflect diverse experiences and backgrounds. And we require that the organizations, 501c3 organizations, have a minimum of 5 board members. We can go to the next slide. Fresno Regional Foundation will not consider grant requests for the following: previously incurred expenses, fundraising by one agency on behalf of another, endowments, institutions limiting their services to persons of a single religious sect or denomination, and we do not give grants to individuals. We have this slide in both your handout and on our website because for us, we have developed this grant-making program. Many of you may have heard me say this before. We started with the final report. So before you apply, take a look at the reporting requirements for our grants. Understand the type of information that we'll be asking of you. We began our grant-making process by thinking of what we wanted to learn from the granting efforts. We will show you where to find the final report template later when we go into the OLGA system. And we recommend that you go through that template carefully. All right. Again, if you have questions as we go through, please submit them, but we will be taking questions at the end of the webinar. How to apply using OLGA. And OLGA is our online grant application system. So, granting, so if you go to our FRF homepage, go to the Grant Making tab or OLGA login, it will bring you to the OLGA page. In order to apply, you need an OLGA login, complete an organization profile form, and submit an application by the deadline. We recommend that you use Firefox and Google Chrome. And you need to create an account or login with the existing organization login info. So let me explain a little bit. Your tax identification number, we issue a login based on the tax identification number. So it is not one per user, it's one per organization. And so if you are new to your organization and you're not sure if who applied or who used to do this for your organization, just go in and we will show you where to check your tax identification. So let's now start the process for an Olga login. So there's our website. We're going to go to the grant making tab there. We will go to my Olga login. And so if your organization has applied to us, and the majority of you indicated that you have applied to us before, you need to get the username and password. So you would plug that in here. If you don't know, then let's go to if they don't know. So if you go to the request an account, and there is in blue the check existing TIN numbers, which is tax identification number. This is where you will check. So you could put in your organization's name, and there it is. So we have it in the system. So you just determined, yes, my organization has applied before, but I don't know what that username or password is. So then the next step would be to call Sarah, and she will reset the password for you so that you could have that. All right. So that's what to do if you don't have it. Now we're going to go through the process once you have it all. Sign in, and it says hello. Natalie is not here with us today, but Natalie and I are the two program officers for the foundation. And so here's what we want you to know about Olga and the organization profile form. One, you create it or update it once per calendar year. So that's January 1 through December 31st. Applicants since 2010 will already have an OPF in the system. Applicants, so you won't need to create a new OPF. So even if you're new to your organization and you've already determined that your organization has applied, your OPF should be in there. And there should only be one OPF because it should be updated every calendar year. Now, I want to emphasize the calendar year because if there is an existing OPF, you're going to see the notes from the previous year. As we process these, the program staff provides notes and feedback to, so that we can let you know we've got everything we need for the assessment, and we kind of give you the green light. All of those notes or comments are listed in there. So you do not want to mistake the yes, okay to apply comment based on a previous year. If you have not done it this year, or nobody in your organization has said we have already updated it, then it is not updated. It has to be updated once per calendar year. Okay. So once a year, and we've already explained the tax identification tool. We want you to complete all the cells in the form. So let's open a form. We're going to go into edit mode because we're updating it. So populate all the cells. We have narrative questions in this template that we want complete. If these things are not completed, we will put a note up top where the program officers put their notes to say this is missing, that's missing, or this question is not answered. And every year you have to attach the documents requested, which is at the bottom here. So we don't save those documents. We clear them out because they take a lot of space in our system. So every year they are all cleared out, and we want current documents, and this is where you place them. So the next thing we want you to know is when you are labeling these documents, we don't want any symbols in the attachments. 3, when you're saving this information, you want to go to the return for editing or submit button. Let's see. We've got 2 options there. It says submission status. You have time, you can take your time in populating everything you need to populate in this, and you keep it in the return for editing and then hit the save. When you are ready to submit to us, then you have to transition that to submit to FRF. In the past, I believe this was 1 button, and we have finally got the capability to separate them out. So if it remains in the save and return for editing, we will not process it. So it is very important for you to switch that button when you're ready to submit, especially given that there is a deadline. The other thing we want you to know is the timer. So this will time out, and you will lose your information if you didn't save and return for editing. And we have the timer up top for your convenience. And then the last thing we want you to know is that we are in edit mode. You are updating, populating, attaching documents here. And you want to see if everything is there. And you go into edit and you're like, I just attached it, it's not there. You have to get out of there and go into view mode. And when you go into view mode, you will be able to see what we see. So it will confirm whether your attachments are there. It will confirm that any updates that you just made had taken, and they're reflected here. So we want to make those 2 distinctions. These 5 things that I just went over, making sure that you know it has to be updated once a year, so not relying on the comments in your OPF based on a previous year. Okay, updated once a calendar year. Do not use symbols in your file names and attachments. Make sure that you are return and save for editing, or when you're ready to submit that you click that button. Those are 2 buttons that are at the bottom, but both will help you go into this refresh and save your documents because you will time out, which is why we have the timer for you to review. And then the last thing is for you to go out of edit when you want to see if your information is in there, and you must go into view. Notes, I'm going to give you some notes about the application after this. So again, if you have any questions, you can give them to us now, and we'll take them and accumulate them right after our presentation here. So notes about the application, which is due March 1st. And I should say that the OPF is due February 15th. So the application. Are we in the application here? Yes. So let's go to an application. Now here, you may, if your organization has applied to us over the years, you're going to have several applications. Do not update the applications. These applications are archived for our committee to view. So if there is an application in there, do not mess with it. You need to create a new application. So you go to the apply. So here's what I want you to know about the application. It's very straightforward, and we want you to populate everything there is to populate here. But the first thing I want you to be mindful of is the grant amount requested must fall within range. So if you're not applying for the $50,000, don't apply for $35,000 because the grant range is $5,000 to $25,000. 2, if you're applying for $10,000 or more, we require you to fill out a narrative attachment and a second worksheet of budget attachments. So let's go there so they know what we're talking about. So within this application template, there is a document. It's a Word document, I believe. Let's go there. Here we go. And it says, grant applications of 10,000 or more. Here's what you're going to open and populate. So let's open it. And you're going to provide additional information. So you open this, you're going to save it onto your desktop or laptop, and you will answer the questions. You'll save it, so then you will have to attach it to this application like you do your other documents. Okay? And now let's go to the budget, because embedded in the budget template, there are two tabs at the bottom. This is an Excel document. And so here we go. So you will populate the areas here. You tell us what you need to align with the requested amount. If it's under $10,000, this is the only tab you have to complete. But if you are applying for $10,000 or more, then go to the second tab there, Financial History. And we need this populated from your organization. Okay. So that's that. And then let's go again down to the return for editing or submit to FRS. Again, like the OPF, as long as you're working in this document, you can keep it on return for editing. And every time you do that and you hit the Save button, it refreshes the page, and so you're not losing the information that you're populating. Once this is complete, you need to switch it to Submit to FRS, because the program staff will not review and process it if it's not in that status, Submit to FRS. And then the last thing is the view mode to check if your attachments are uploaded and narrative boxes are not cut off. We highly recommend that you go out of edit and you go into view so that you could see what we are seeing when we are reviewing a submitted application. And so let's go down to narrative box. So as you populate in edit mode, go down to one of the questions. Are we there? Yeah, here we go. These boxes we have in the template, you will see do not exceed 1,000 characters in each of the boxes allocated for these questions. When you get out of edit and you come here, you could see if you've exceeded the 1,000 characters or not, because it will cut off. So we highly recommend that you get out of edit, go into view, and see if any of your narrative is cut off. Because if committees is not getting complete information, they may just put the application aside and focus on one that is giving us complete information. Okay, so I have just a couple of notes about the final report. Review reporting requirements before applying. Okay, so we'll go to My Funded Grants, and you will be able to click on Submit a Report so you could see what we're asking. And there's nothing that does not align with the questions in the application. But in particular, the population you're serving, the zip codes, the gender, age of the population you're serving from this program, you need to be prepared on the front end to collect this data so that you are reporting on it at the end of the grant. And then the second note about the final report is what we just did. Open the blank report form and review the questions that are asked, okay? All right. We're going to go on to the next one, the submission of the OPF and the application. So the foundation has 3 layers to ensure that OPFs and applications are successfully submitted. The web confirmation, so as soon as you hit that Save button, and there is going to be a web confirmation. Then there's an automated email sent to the applicant once the item is submitted. And I believe it has what you just did. So it gives you, you can look at the form at the bottom of the email because we get a copy of it. And then the final layer is the program staff will send you an email. But that email won't come until we have processed it. So we are not processing anything until after the deadline, and then we process in order of submission. So if you submitted it at 5 o'clock on the deadline, then you're going to be on the last day that we're processing it. You're not going to get it right away. But that is the third layer. So you have 1, the web page confirmation, 2, the automated email sent to the applicants once an item is submitted or saved, okay? And then 3, the final email approval by the program staff, which will come days later after the deadline. When one of these layers is missing, it is an indication that the item was not successfully submitted. Okay, so here are some final reminders. Grant amount requested must fall within range. If applying for $10,000 or more, we require you to fill out the narrative attachment and both worksheets on the budget attachment. Please do not use symbols in the file name of the attachment. We cannot open them to review them. Be mindful of the status, return for editing or submit to FRS. We will not process anything if it is in the return for editing mode. If you are complete and you want us to review it and process it, it has to be in the submit to FRS mode. View, the view mode, so you work in the edit mode, but if you want to view what your work is so that you see what we see, you have to go into the view mode to check if attachments were uploaded and narrative boxes were not cut off. And very important that you use Firefox or Google Chrome. Internet Explorer does not meet the standards of an online process like this. And so you will have great difficulty if you use Internet Explorer. All right, now we're going to take questions. Let's see here. I have, our office is located in Fresno. Will only one organization in Fresno be awarded the 35 grant, or are we better off aiming for the $25,000 grant to increase our chances of the consideration? So we're not giving a one-time $35,000 grant. I mean, we could have 7 organizations in the city of Fresno request $5,000, and that would meet this requirement of the fund that is tied to this portion of the grant, the total amount. So there is a fund in place that says these dollars can only go to the City of Fresno organizations. They have to have an address in the City of Fresno. That is a restriction of this particular fund. And only $35,000 of the 120 has this restriction. So it could be a combination of amounts, but of the 120,000, 35,000 has to be given to an organization or organizations with the address in the City of Fresno. Thank you. Okay, great. Let's see. Will this webinar be posted for accessible via FRF website? Yes, it will be. It gives Sarah a few days. She has to convert it. You know, it has to get saved, converted, and so we will try. Our goal is to have this particular webinar posted by next Wednesday. Okay. Is there any way we can prepare for the questions in both the OPF and the grant application by receiving the questions in a PDF document that we can know? You're going to have to open them up. You can copy and paste them onto a Word document so that you can have them and work on them in a separate attachment. But be careful when you're copying and pasting them back into the actual areas to be populated, because you've got to be mindful of the character count, got to be mindful that nothing is getting cut off, got to be mindful that you're not copying the same thing in 2 areas. So that is kind of what, if you're going to work on a separate document and not keep the templates open, those are the things you've got to consider. I hope that answers your question. Also, if we have questions and would prefer to talk to you in person rather than through the webinar, can we schedule an appointment with you? Yes, I would say our program staff is available to answer any questions from the applicants. However, as we get closer to the deadline, we are focusing on getting the applications processed for committee. So we're not going to have the time to sit with you to talk about your program or your project. So if you have something in mind and you want to schedule something, please call Sarah and she will schedule some time with either me or Natalie. But you need to do that well before the deadline. And I would say in the next week or 2, you would have a clear priority and we'd have the time to do it. As we get closer, our time is allocated for grant application process. Okay, and our last question, or maybe second to last, when the program or organization is not a 501c3 but do not have a fiscal sponsor, will the narrative be on the program or the fiscal sponsor? So when you have a fiscal sponsor, it is only information that we want and is tied to your organization profile form. In that phase, in the organization profile form, we are determining the health of the organization, whether we can give you a grant, and so we only want, if you have a fiscal sponsor, we just want the information about your fiscal sponsor so that we can assess they can manage the grant. Okay, you're not going to be managing the grant, they are, and so our assessment goes to that area. Can they manage the grant? And so the documents requested help us make that determination. When you get to the program and the application side, it's all you and your organization and your program. It has nothing to do with your fiscal sponsor. It only has to do with your organization and the work that you are proposing to us. So no information on the fiscal sponsor except when it comes to the financials. So in the application, and let's say you're applying for $10,000 or more, then we have the budget history. We will work individually with the organization based on what you're proposing, because we kind of want both. We want to see this history from the fiscal agent, but we're also trying to assess the organization and get to know you more. So if you've been in existence for 3 years and you've had a fundraising budget, we want to know that, even if it's small. So we will work one-on-one with you based on your set of circumstances. But for the most part, in the organization profile form, fiscal agent information, there's a section for it, and you populate it from your fiscal agent. The rest of the information we want to target on the organization. I hope that answers your question. All right, do you only fund programs, or would you fund a piece of equipment? Under previously granted awards, your focus appears to be on work. Oh, that's 2 questions. Okay, so let me get that first one. So do you only fund programs, or would you fund a piece of equipment? Well, you would have to demonstrate how purchasing the piece of equipment align with the goals to fund. So the goals to fund are the priority of this grant cycle. So the board has approved and is communicating with these goals that these are the priorities for the foundation this year. So if a piece of equipment can clearly align with what the board has said is our priority, then sure. And then let's go to the next question. Under previously granted awards, your focus appears to be on work products, a show, a series, etc. If we train artists and leaders in creating cultural events, would this be competitive? I would say that if your project aligns with these goals to fund, then yes, but you would clearly have to demonstrate how your effort, the training of artists and leaders, align with supporting culturally relevant art forms that reflect and serve the Central San Joaquin Valley, diverse community or population, how it support arts and culture activities that engage underserved communities, and support arts and culture activities that improve achievement in core academic competencies, such as literacy, math, science for preschool to 12th grade students. Let's see the next question. I hope that answers your question. Can you further explain what is meant by not providing grants to individuals? We don't give grants to an individual. So if there is a, let's say, one of the trainers of these artists that is going to train other artists, if say he needs funding support to do that training, and he's not affiliated with an organization, or she's not affiliated with an organization, we cannot give a grant to an individual to do community work like this. We could only give grants to 501c3 organizations, learning institutions, educational institutions, and so on. So we would not give a grant to an individual so that they could do this type of work. I hope that answers your question. Okay. If there are no other questions, we're going to go right into the Cultural Data Project. So let's show on, I believe, in the organization profile form. We're going to go back to the organization profile form very quickly. And only for the Arts and Culture Grant Cycle is there a place for you to attach a cultural data profile. And there is a link here. We've got an explanation right here. So there we go. CDP website. You see other here. A CDP website. And also we're using this space for kind of dual things because this is only for Arts and Culture Grant Cycles. We do not require the CDP report for any of our other grant cycles. So if you click here, it will take you to this page, and you will have a logon and a password to create the report that the foundation has a place to receive. Now, last year, we made this report optional. Prior to last year, we made it mandatory. It was a mandatory report that you had to include if you were going to apply to the grant cycle. It is, again, optional this year. So we are now going to transition into what this is and how you generate that report. So I'm going to pass it on to Sarah.
Hi, everyone. I am.
Great.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. Let me just share my screen with all of you. Looks like it is thinking about sharing the screen. Can you see it on your end?
We can.
You can? Oh, great. Well, then I need to see it on mine. Fantastic. Well, this is just going to be a brief overview of the Cultural Data Project for those of you who are going to be applying for the Arts and Culture portion of the Fresno Regional Foundation. I am an associate here at the CDP, and I apologize if I'm a couple steps behind. I'm actually the associate who oversees operations in Minnesota and Illinois. The California associate, Laura Gordon, actually came down with the flu this week, so I'm just sort of pinch hitting for her. But hopefully I can still help and answer all of your questions. So to get things started with our presentation, I'm just going to do, as I said, a brief CDP overview. We'll talk a little bit about the data profile, the the profile in which we collect all of the data from participating organizations. And I'll also show you how to generate funder reports, so the reports that you will be using to send your data to funders. And then we'll talk a little bit about the different reporting tools that will be at your disposal once your data is in the CDP. There's a suite of reports. There's over 75 of them. They're wonderful analytic reports that you can take advantage of to better understand your organization's inner workings. And I will happily answer any questions at the end. I'm not sure if I will be able to see them as they pop up, but hopefully Sandra or Sarah, you can share them with me if you see any on your end.
Yes.
Great, thank you. So to start off, just to tell you why the CDP was created, we like to say that the CDP sort of grew out of a mutiny that took place here in Philadelphia, where the project began back in the early 2000s. A number of arts and culture organizations banded together, and they approached their funders with a list of complaints. They said, you know, you're all asking us for financial information, but you all want to see it in different formats, and it's a tremendous burden on our staff to have to reformat this data year after year in all these different ways. So can you not all agree on one way to collect this? They also said, you know, we're giving you all this data, and maybe we get a grant, maybe we don't, but we're really seeing very little return in exchange for all this effort that we're putting in to provide all this data. And lastly, these organizations were frustrated with always seeing arts and culture being one of the first things put on the chopping block when it came time for budget cuts in the city of Philadelphia and in the state of Pennsylvania. So the CDP really was created in response to all of these complaints. It is a tool that is meant to strengthen the entire arts and culture sector by providing organizations with resources to better manage their institutions. It also streamlines the application process for organizations by enabling them to input their financial data into the CDP system once a year and then send that data out to their funders with just a click of a button rather than having to reformat it over and over again in many different ways. Lastly, it provides researchers and advocates with apples-to-apples data about the sector to really give a voice to arts and culture organizations across the country. Now, we do all of these things by collecting organizations' data in an 11-section online form called the Data Profile. I will touch on all of the different 11 sections of that data profile in just a little bit. Participating in the CDP are organizations of all sizes and stripes, both large and small organizations. We predominantly collect information from 501c3 nonprofit organizations, but there are also C4, C5, and C6 organizations. We collect data from unincorporated collectives and festivals, as well as cultural programs within non-arts organizations. So, for example, the dance department at a university can input their data into the CDP. We also collect data from organizations that have fiscal sponsors, and really any organization in any state in which we operate can input their data into the CDP, even if they're not intending to apply to a participating funder. If they just want to take advantage of those great analytic reports, they can certainly put their data into the system so that they can do so. To give you a sense of the states in which we are operating, you'll see here on the map in just a second, all of the states that are in orange on the map are where CDP is currently operating. Right now we're in 12 states as well as Washington, D.C. Back when the project launched in 2004, it was just the Pennsylvania CDP. It was known as the PA CDP, and it really had no designs on expansion. It was very happy to remain a single state operation, but after operating for a few years, our neighbors to the south in Maryland came knocking and said, we want to do what you're doing. And so little by little we began to expand, and here's where we are today. Now, why this map matters to you as organizations inputting your data in the system, once you've got a few years of data in the CDP system, you'll be able to generate comparison reports, benchmarking your organization against similar organizations anywhere in the country where CDP is operating. So if you wanted to compare your theater company, for example, to a similar size and a similar age theater company in New York, you'd be able to do so, or in Minnesota or Illinois. So it's a really great tool, and we do hope to continue expanding in the future. We are planning on launching Texas in the summer of this year, so that will be a nice, great big state for us to take on with a lot of data for comparison there. Currently, in all of these states in which we're operating, there are over 14,000 participating organizations, and these organizations have created over 41,000 data profiles. So that's one data profile per fiscal year. We also have over 260 participating grant programs. So that's over 260 grants programs that accept a CDP funder report as part of their application process. In California, there's over 3,600 participating organizations. And these organizations have created over 10,300 data profiles, so that's a tremendous wealth of information. And there's also 42 participating grant programs in California, and I will show you where to go to access a full list of all of those grants programs in just a little bit. As I mentioned before, participating in the CDP are organizations of all sizes and stripes, but to give you a sense of the budget breakdown of these organizations, you'll see that over 50% of the organizations inputting their data into the CDP have budgets of under $250,000. Now, we highlight this point just to make the case that smaller organizations often feel a little bit daunted by the task of compiling all of this financial and programmatic data, but it's really very user-friendly, and we actually find that smaller organizations actually have an easier time inputting the data. Usually their financials are a little less complex than the multi-million-dollar organizations, and there's actually sections that they can skip over completely within the data profile. So it's really a much faster process for them. Now, the CDP is here to help you every step of the way as you are participating. We offer lots of online training. There's videos that you can watch on our website. I will show you how to get to this page where you can see all the resource materials available to you. We also offer training sessions, both in person and via webinar. And we have a help desk who are based here in Philadelphia. They sit right down the hall from me. And they're really here as a resource for you with any questions that you have regarding the CDP. If you have questions about inputting your data into the data profile, or if you have questions on how to generate an analytic report, you can always pick up the phone and call them. They are available to you for free. And we're never going to cut you off and tell you that you've called too many times or say that you've reached a quota of help. They're always going to be there for you, happy to help. And we also have a financial consultant on staff who's also available to arts and culture organizations free of charge. If you have some more high-level financial questions as you're filling out the data profile, maybe you want a little bit more information on how to best fill out the in-kind contribution portion of the data profile, you can call our financial consultant, and she will walk you through that and help you better understand exactly what we're asking for. To get started, for those of you who have never participated in the CDP, this is the Cultural Data Project website for California. This is where you're going to go to register your organization. You'll see a blue-gray box on the left-hand side of the screen there, and that's where you're going to go to create an organization login and password. Now, we do ask that there's only one organization and login per organization. We don't want to have multiple logins within your organization, because that will just mean that you're going to have to eventually marry those two accounts together, and it's going to be a little bit of a headache for you. So please do just create one organization login and password. But before you do that, I do like to point out our training and resources page. You'll see just beneath that blue-gray box there, there's a training and resources link. If you were to click on that link, you'd be taken to our online training page. Now, this is where you'll find all of those great learning modules and videos that you can watch. There's a 5-minute video as well as a 25-minute video that talk about the CDP in a sort of broad overview format. It's a great place to send other members of your staff who maybe need to familiarize themselves with the CDP. There's also a number of online learning modules for portions of the data profile that we've heard from organizations are a little bit more tricky. For example, the functional expense groupings, or understanding how to convert your staff into full-time equivalents. We've created learning modules to help you better understand those sections. You'll also see on the right-hand side of the screen a list of reference materials. Now, clicking on any of these hyperlinks will generate a PDF for you that will help you through different parts of the data profile. We've also created an audit wish list. If you're working with an auditor on filling out the CDP, perhaps you want to take a look at that wish list, and it will facilitate a more fruitful conversation with your auditor about your needs from them as you're filling out the CDP. So I would encourage you to start here before even getting into the data profile and putting in your data. This is a great place to start things off and to really understand exactly what's going on with the CDP before getting started. Once you have registered your organization and you log into the website, you'll be taken to the My CDP page. It looks just like this. Now, this is kind of your administrative hub or your dashboard for all things CDP. You'll see a list of colored buttons on the left-hand side of the screen there. Those are really your navigational tools. They're going to take you to your list of data profiles as you create them over time. You can also click on the Funder Reports button to generate funder reports to send your data to funders. There's a yellow My Reports button that takes you to the analytic reports, which I'll talk about in just a little bit. And then, of course, you have the option of My Account, where you can add users or change your password. And then there's the Help section, which has that training and resources page again, and then the Help Desk contact information. Now, there's a lot going on this page, and I'll try to touch on all of the different things that are possible from this page throughout the presentation. But since I think I only have half an hour, I am going to have to go pretty quickly, but hopefully I can help those of you who have questions along the way. Once you begin creating a data profile, I just want to talk a little bit about the navigation of the data profile. Here we're going to pull up a screenshot of just one section of the data profile, section 6 to be exact. You'll see at the top portion of the screen, hopefully it loads for you in just a second, the numbers 1 through 11 are going to appear at the top part of the screen. Now, these are going to represent all 11 sections of the data profile. And they're there for you to click back and forth through the 11 sections in any order you'd like. You do not need to start with section 1 and work all the way through section 11 in sequential order. You can absolutely do your favorite sections first or save your favorites for the end. It's really up to you. You'll notice to the left of those numbered buttons, there's an orange bar that says Return to My CDP. That's always going to be available to you on the upper left-hand side of the screen as you work through the data profile. And all it does is it takes you back to that administrative hub, to that main dashboard, that page that we were just looking at. So instead of having you click the back button on your browser or try to figure out how to jump back there, that button's available to you to just hop right back before you log out of the system. Clicking on that Return to My CDP button will automatically save your work. Now you'll notice that there is a great big blue Save button on the upper right-hand side of the screen as well. And that's really just there as a precaution or as a safety net for you to click on if, like me, you like to get up, wander away from your desk for a little bit, grab a cup of coffee, or have a conversation with a coworker. I would encourage you to click that Save button just to ensure that nothing's going to happen to your work. Now, this system will lock you out after about 20 minutes of inactivity, the same way that an online banking system would. And if and when that happens, your work will automatically save. But just as I said, you can never be too cautious, so I would encourage you to click that Save button if you ever walk away from your screen while the data profile is up. Now, you also notice to the right of the Save button, there's a big red Cancel button. And that's basically just going to wipe out all of your work from that working session. So from the most recent save, your work's going to be wiped out. So if, for example, you sit down to work on a section of the data profile and you realize that you've grabbed the wrong year audit, that you've wasted that entire working session, you've put in completely wrong data, you can just click that red Cancel button and all of your work from the previous save will be erased. A few other things I want to point out on the screen as you're looking at it. Beneath the Save and Cancel buttons, you'll notice 3 hyperlinks. The first says Help Desk. If you click on that, you will pull up the Help Desk contact information. That's something that's going to be available to you as you go through the data profile so that, again, you don't need to click the back button on your browser or worry about having the Help Desk number saved somewhere, stuck as a post-it on your computer screen. You can always just click on that hyperlink and have the number pop up for you. The next hyperlink says Form Instructions, and that relates directly to the orange question marks that you'll see on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. There's a series of orange question marks. These are line instructions. So every single line item within the data profile has its own set of instructions. Now, these are there to really ensure that we're collecting apples-to-apples data from all participating organizations, regardless of their discipline or size or location. Everyone's getting the exact same instructions and definitions. If you find yourself clicking on these line instructions pretty often, you can just click on that form instructions hyperlink and generate a PDF for yourself that has all of the line instructions throughout the 11 sections of the data profile. You can just print that out for yourself and have it on hand rather than having to click into the question marks every few lines or so. The last hyperlink that I want to talk about says Show Notes. Now that relates directly to the little white boxes that are next to the question marks that have a blue pencil inside. Now these are editable notes fields. These notes fields are here for you. They are confidential notes. They will only ever be seen by your organization and by the CDP Help Desk. They're never going to be seen by your funders. And they're really there for you to leave yourself a reminder, perhaps of how you reached a certain calculation in a given year, or where you found a particular piece of information. You can use these notes however you'd like. If you have an email exchange with a member of the help desk about a specific part of the data profile and you want to cut and paste that entire email conversation in here, you absolutely can do so. You'll notice that on the bottom of the pop-up that you see on your screen, there are notes from previous years on the bottom, and then the notes that you're going to leave yourself for the current year are going to go into that top field. To give you a sense of the 11-section data profile and what we're going to be asking for in each section, here's a quick rundown. In Section 1, you're just going to be putting in basic organizational data like your address, your tax ID, email address, etc. In Section 2, it's an audit review and verification sheet. So you're going to be wanting to match up your audit or your review with this form. This is a great place to call our help desk or to get on the phone with our financial consultant if you're having a hard time matching up your audit line items with the verification sheet, and that's not a problem. We actually have a number of organizations who email or fax in a copy of their audit so that they can go through it line by line with our help desk or financial consultant. In Section 3, we're going to ask you for information on your organization's revenue, both earned and contributed. In Section 4, we're going to ask you to break out the government revenue that your organization receives specifically, so any grants that maybe you receive from the NEA or any arts councils that exist in the state of California, that would go there. In Section 5, we're going to switch gears from revenue to expenses, and we're asking for information on your salary and fringe benefits only for any employees that you have who receive W-2 forms. And basically, we're going to ask for that information broken out over functional expense categories so that we can really get a sense of how your employees' salaries are being spent, whether it's in fundraising or general and administrative or programming, etc. In Section 6, we're going to ask you for all of the other expenses that your organization incurs. It's a pretty long laundry list of expenses. Since we work with so many different types of organizations, we had to be as inclusive as possible. So you'll just fill out whichever line items apply to you, and not all of them will, and that's perfectly fine. If at any point as you're going through the data profile you find a line item that does not apply to you, you can certainly just skip right over it. You don't need to put a 0 in. You can just skip right over that line item and keep on working. Moving down to Section 7, we're going to ask you for marketing expenses specifically. Now, your marketing expenses will have been allocated in Section 6, but we're going to ask for a bit more information on marketing just so that you can tell us how closely you're tracking those expenses. In this section, we ask you whether or not those expenses are actual or if they're estimated, or if you just really don't know, you've never tracked the expense before, but you know it's something that your organization incurs. That's what we're asking for in Section 7. In Section 8, the balance sheet section, we're basically going to ask you to generate a balance sheet for your organization. Maybe you can do that using QuickBooks or Peachtree or whatever kind of financial accounting software you use. And then create a balance sheet using that information. And your bottom line totals from that balance sheet section are going to have to match up with the audit review and verification sheet in Section 2. That's just something to keep in mind as you're working. In Section 9, we're going to ask for any information on investments that your organization might have. If your organization doesn't have any investments or any endowments, you can just skip right over that section and keep on working. In Section 10, we ask for information on loans or lines of credit or mortgages that your organization might have. If that's not something that your organization has, you can, again, just skip right over that section entirely and keep right on working. Lastly, in Section 11, we reach the final section of the data profile, which is also the longest section. Here we ask for your non-financial information, your programmatic information mostly. Here we're asking for information on attendance, on your staffing in terms of full-time equivalents, a lot of information in that section. And once you've gone through all of that, you will have created a data profile. That's a really exciting moment for you. You'll go through the process of submitting it to the CDP. Doing that doesn't submit it to any funders by any means. It just sends your data to the CDP, and it runs it through a rigorous automated error check, kind of like a TurboTax error check. So once that happens and your data gets approved by the error check, you will be able to generate analytic reports and the funder reports that I mentioned. So to generate those funder reports, you can just scroll down to the bottom of the screen in that dashboard or home page of the MyCDP page, and select the fiscal year for which you want to generate the funder report, and then click on Go. And once you do that, you'll be taken to the list of funders in your state who are participating in the CDP. So here you will see a list of funders for the state of California. And once you locate the funder to whom you want to apply, so here we will look at the Fresno Regional Foundation. Just click on the plus sign next to that funder's name, and you'll get a drop-down that shows the grants program for which they are accepting the CDP funder report. You will simply click on that orange View Report button, and what's going to happen after you do that is that you will see a pop-up. Now the pop-up is going to say, please note that generating this funder report as a PDF will also make your organization's data available to the funder electronically. Now all this means is that we have an interface for our grant makers called GrantMaker CDP that enables them to view your data electronically the moment you give them permission, and that moment happens when you click OK on this pop-up. So if you're not ready to do that, you would click Cancel and continue working on your data profile if you want. You'll also see right above the pop-up there's a hyperlink that says Learn how to preview funder reports. I would encourage you to preview the funder report before clicking OK and sending your data to your funder. It's always a good idea to see the data as your funder is going to be seeing it, so you can do that by clicking on that hyperlink. But if you are fully confident in your data and you are ready for it to go to your funder, you would click OK on that pop-up, and a PDF would automatically generate showing your funder's funder report. Now you'll notice the more you use the system and the more funder reports you generate to different funders, that no two funder reports are going to look alike. We work pretty closely with our funders to create customized reports that show their applicants' data in the way that they want to see them. So again, it's a good idea to generate this report in a preview form first, just to get a sense of what your funder is going to be seeing. And also it's a great idea to know how your funder is asking for this data, even though they will have access to it electronically. It's a great idea to check their guidelines, make sure you understand exactly how to submit this report. So we know for the Fresno Regional Foundation, of course, that this is going to be uploaded in their ALGA system as an attachment, but it will be different for other funders, so just make sure you know exactly how the funder wants to receive this report. Again, to see a list of the funders participating in California, you can go to the CDP website and just select the state of California, and you will see a list. You'll also be shown a list of the national funders who are participating. If by any chance you apply to national funders, you'll be able to submit a CDP or funder report to them as well. Now to switch gears a little bit from funder reports to the analytic reports that are available for users once your data is in the system, I'm just going to give you a couple examples of the different types of analytic reports that you can run. So in addition to collecting that data so that you can have the process be more streamlined and submit it to your funders, again, the data is really going to be there for you to play with and to look at and to get a much better sense of how your organization is really operating. So let's take a look at some of these reports. To get started, we're going to go to the CDP reports page. Now, we've gotten here by clicking on the yellow My Reports button on that first home page, or that dashboard page. Now, you see here there's a couple icons for the different kinds of reports that you can run. So we have an annual report, and then there's also the options for trend reports or comparison reports. You'll see on the left-hand side of the screen the list of the reports that are available to you. So starting with annual report, That's pretty obvious. It will include some high-level financial and programmatic data for your organization. Beneath that, we have a program activity report, a personnel report, an unrestricted activity report, a program revenue and marketing expense report, a contributed revenue and fundraising expense report, and a balance sheet report. Now, all of those reports beneath the annual report can be run in either a trend mode or a comparison mode. The trend mode, or the trend reports are going to show your organization's data only over 2 or 3 fiscal years. Now, you'll be able to select the years of data that you want to see depending on how many years you have in the system. The comparison reports will take a look at your organization's data for 1 fiscal year, and it will compare that year of data to a comparison group that you build with different search criteria to pull data from those other states or regions or cities, whatever you'd like, where CDP is operating. So you could even compare your organization just to other organizations in the Fresno region or in San Francisco or in LA. Whatever you'd like to do, there's a wealth of criteria to choose from there. Beneath those 3 icons, you'll see there's a Powered by CDP section. This section is for reports that we are creating in collaboration with other organizations that use CDP data. So right now we have a financial health analysis report that we created in collaboration with the Nonprofit Finance Fund. So to show you what these reports look like once you actually choose to run them, here is a PDF of our annual report. Now you see it does have just some high-level financial activity. Beneath that, even though it's not showing in the screenshot, you would see some high-level program activity as well. Now, the great thing about this report is that it's something that you can generate with just 3 clicks of the mouse. There's no number crunching needed. There's no reformatting of your data needed. And you can also type in. There's a couple narrative boxes within this report where you can actually give some context to your numbers. You can put your organization's mission statement in the narrative box, or you can, if you're planning on distributing this report at a board meeting, you can remind your board of what your organization had going on in those particular fiscal years, just to give them a sense of why they're looking at the numbers that they're looking at. So it's a really great report, and I would strongly encourage you to use this one. Next, we'll take a look at an example trend report. So again, the trend report takes a look at your organization's data only. So here we're looking at the program revenue and marketing expense trend report, just taking a look at the marketing activity portion. And so we see 3 different fiscal years for our organization, as well as a % change column. You'll also see a graph in the snapshot. We do include different kinds of charts and graphs within our reports, just to give you a different way of looking at the numbers. Next, we'll take a look at a comparison report. Again, this report takes a look at your organization's data for 1 fiscal year. So in the very center column for fiscal year 2010, you'll see your organization's data represented there. And then to the right of that, you'll see the comparison group. And I will show you that data in both an average and in the median so that you can really get a good sense of how your organization stacks up against that comparison group. Lastly, here's an example of the financial health analysis report. This is the one that we created in collaboration with the Nonprofit Finance Fund. This report pulls data from the balance sheet section of your data profile only, and it's a really in-depth look at your organization's finances. You'll see that this report has an awful lot of words on it. It definitely gives a lot of context to your numbers, and even some gentle suggestions on perhaps what the best practices might be, depending on what that report says. So it's a great report to run if you want to get a much more in-depth look at your organization's financial health. Once you start generating the analytic reports on the CDP site, you can certainly customize these reports and make them available to only certain people on your staff, or if you're working with a consultant, you can add different users and create logins for them so that they can view these reports electronically without being able to necessarily edit your organization's data within the data profile. So here you can add report users. You can also save these reports. You would add the report users by clicking on that purple My Account button. You can also save or print their reports depending on what you'd like to do with them. You'll see there's a print button on the upper right-hand side of the screen of this annual report that we're looking at. clicking on that print button will generate a PDF of this report so that you can print it out and save a hard copy of it, or you can save it on your desktop if you'd like. The Save button will actually save the report within the CDP system. So you can give that report a name and save it within the system, and then decide whether or not this report is going to be private and only available to you, or if it's going to be shared with other report users. And here we see a list of what your reports might look like as you save many over time. You'll see the different report names, when they were created, and the different users who are able to view the reports. If you'd like more information on the CDP reporting features, if you'd like a much more in-depth tutorial on how to actually generate the reports, and also some suggestions on the kinds of reports your organization might want to run depending on your specific situations, you can attend a report-specific orientation session by clicking on the big blue Orientation Sessions button on the CDP website. To take one, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Sarah, I thought you were done.
Oh, no, I just very quickly just wanted to go through the process of the data checking that the CDP goes through, and then I will wrap it up and take any questions that you have. So just very quickly, as you're working on your data profile, the status of these profiles is going to show up on the CDP as in progress. So that's how you know that they are currently being edited. They haven't been submitted anywhere. Once you click on the Check and Submit button and run your data through that rigorous automated error check, the status of your data profile will change to Submitted, awaiting CDP review. Now, this is the moment where you can start running the analytic reports and the funder reports and sending your data to funders. But on our end, on the CDP side, we're actually taking a look at your data profile line by line, just in case there's something that the automated error check did not catch. A pretty common mistake that we see with organizations is that they have financial information on the brain so much by the time they get to Section 11, where we're asking for non-financial information, that they actually input a financial number where they mean to put in a non-financial number. So, for example, when we ask for the number of contributors to an organization, they might say that they have 300,000 contributors, but they actually mean that they have $300,000 of contributions, but only maybe 300 contributors. So something like that will not be caught by the automated error check, but the CDP staff will catch that. And if that happens, they will put a little red exclamation point next to your profile on the CDP system, and your status will change to Submitted, a call to complete review. Once you get back in touch with the CDP to find out exactly what within your data profile needs to be addressed, your profile will be unsubmitted and the status will change to under revision. And then once you resubmit it with the error fixed, you will get a gold star and your status will change to review complete. Now, the review complete status is something that some funders require you to achieve before submitting your funder report. Getting from the submitted status to review complete is really not a time-consuming process. It's just a matter of answering an email or making a phone call to the help desk once they contact you. It just takes a few minutes to fix whatever issue they found within your data profile. So I'm getting the sense that maybe I'm out of time. I was going to talk a little bit about research, but I can skip ahead and just give you the help desk contact info and Laura's information as well, so that you have that available for you.
Okay.
And I'm happy.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to rush you. But we are coming to the end of our time. I think we've exceeded it a little bit.
Oh, no, sorry about that.
No, and I do want to make sure, we did have one question for
Sure.
clarification that we answered privately, but we said that we would share, is that the cultural data profile is optional for the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
However, we encourage applicants to participate in this effort so that, one, we saw the benefit to organizations to access the website and what they have to offer as a tool and resource to organizations that may not have access to this type of reporting capability. And two, it definitely keeps the Central Valley regionally part of the overall landscape of California in terms of arts and culture organizations, the size, the work, the populations that they're reaching. So this is the on-ramp to keep this region on that landscape for an effort like this.
Great.
That's the only question that we have. The only thing I would add is based on past experience from applicants is that the CDP staff is tremendously helpful and will walk organizations through the process. For us in this region, there are several organizations that are not necessarily arts and culture organizations, but they have a program within their organization that aligns with arts and culture. And so the CDP staff has really walked them through what information then to include in regards to the arts and culture program within the organization. I think that has been the most common type of support and scenario from organizations here in the Central Valley. But again, this is optional for organizations. It is not mandatory for applicants to submit a report, although we encourage you to participate in the CDP. All right, and we also, one last thing we wanted to bring to your attention, on our website, when you go to the Arts and Culture tab, to the Grant Making tab and go to Arts and Culture, we have a section, and it's listed Cultural Data Project, and it also says there it's optional to complete and also has a link. So it's embedded in the organization profile form and also part of the public communication on our website when you go to the Grant Making tab. We don't have any additional questions. We want to thank you for your participation, and if you have additional questions that come up after this webinar, please feel free to email us or call. I want to thank Sarah for joining us today, and I hope that if you have any questions for CDP, that you can contact them with any of your questions and support that you may need. With that, we're going to end today's webinar, and we hope that all the applications and documents are submitted in a timely manner so that we can process them and kick off our grant making year. So thank you, everybody.